Hello, everybody. Welcome to UGASports Live. My name is Radi Nabulsi. I'm joined by Dayne Young and Jim Donnan, the latter of which is the former Georgia Bulldogs head coach, the College Football Hall of Fame inductee, and the number one reason everybody's tuning in on a Tuesday. Georgia football practice. The University of Georgia is in spring break right now, which, of course, that always has its ups and downs. But the the team will start practice next Tuesday. So we've got a lot to talk about when it comes to spring practice, the position battles, all the stuff that we got coming from that. Probably have to do a different show at a different time next week because Kirby Smart hopefully will be talking to the media next Tuesday at noon. So fingers crossed there. But what's happened this past week is going to take precedence for the first part of the show. We're going to talk about the NFL Combine and how some of the Georgia players did. They had they had a large contingent, the largest contingent up there, or at least tied for it. And those guys, some of them really put on a show. So we're going to get Coach's thoughts. He's in touch with all these NFL head coaches and analysts and scouts. He knows these people. He talks to them. They reach out to him all the time, asking him, hey, Coach, what about this kid? What about that kid? He likes to downplay that, but I've been with him and I've seen his phone going off, and I'm like, oh, that's the head coach for this team. That's the head coach for that team. That's the scout for this team. He'll say it's not true, but it is. So anyway, Coach, we want to get your thoughts on some of these players and how they fared and if they helped themselves, hurt themselves, or did they answer questions? I know that certain guys were held up because of medical testing. They wanted to go a little deeper on some guys, who've had injuries, and especially when it comes to the offensive linemen. You had 4 offensive line guys up there, and a lot of them had been injured throughout the year. So let's start with right off the bat. Let's start with Xavier Truss, Coach, because that was a guy who. I don't know that when he first got here, we ever thought he'd be at the NFL Combine.
Yeah, you got to give the kid a lot of credit for sticking it out. And it's not your everyday player from Rhode Island that makes it big-time football. And nothing against Rhode Island, but I do like the seafood up there. But definitely Xavier has got the reps and the practice tape to help him. He's got, pretty good quickness to go with his overall body type, which is hard to get a guy that big and that can move around. So we know a lot about what he can't do because some of the mistakes he's made over the years as far as redirecting on pass rush and all that. But I do think he'll make a team and he'll get drafted, probably 4th or 5th round, maybe. Depending on workouts that he'll have with individual teams. But he's definitely intelligent. He's got a good feel for the game. And, we're going to miss his overall ability. I mean, he's a veteran player.
Now, all the videos were of Tate Ratledge. We'll get to him in a minute. But the guy that I was very excited to see run out there was Jared Wilson. This guy tore it up. Let's see. Wilson became the second 300-pound lineman to run under 4.85 seconds in combine history. Marked the fastest ever for a center of the combine and the 5th fastest ever for an offensive lineman. So Jared Wilson, who we only got to see him kind of 1 year because Cedric Van Pran was so good, but you told us Jared Wilson would show out at the combine when I was lamenting the fact that he was leaving early for the NFL. You nailed it.
You go back before that, Roddy. Coach was telling us just the quality of athlete that Jared Wilson was coming into the season. A lot of people were worried about losing Van Pran, and then you see this kind of performance, and you see why he went to the NFL Combine.
It's only 1 year. Kills me.
Yeah, I mean, I was disappointed that Jared decided to come out just because selfishly I thought he had so much upside. But, you can't blame the guy because the way he tested, he put himself in a position to be number 1 center draft, and maybe the kid from North Dakota State might go, but he's a multi-purpose type guy. But he had a good practice down there and game at the Senior Bowl. That guy did. But Mel Kiper's talking about it. Daniel Jeremiah. I mean, he's going to go, and Jared's going to go 2nd round. 2nd day for sure now because, first of all, quality young man. I'm just talking about watch him interview, look at his face, the way he smiles, the way he deals with people directly. He's what you're looking for to be on your team as a teammate. And, I heard him talking about the day before they got to actually work out. He hadn't seen some of those guys since maybe the last game. And he said it was like getting ready for a game, all of them being together there the night before a game and talking. And that's kind of camaraderie like. But, I knew coming out of high school because of he's from a really good school there in North Carolina. And heard from some of my buddies up there the kind of athlete he was coming out of high school. And for us to get him, from North Carolina, and you think about that year, we got Jalen Walker and him. I think maybe he might be a year ahead of Jalen. I don't know. They might be the same year, but two really good players and two great young men. So I think his speed and quickness is there, but he also has good football IQ. He can play guard. And to run that kind of time is just incredible. I mean, you break 4.8, you're just doing some things that you're not supposed to. So, in the conversations I had with a couple of head coaches, they were waiting to see what he did because there's not a lot of tape on him. But then what I always say is go back and look at the practice tape. This guy had to block, as a freshman, he had to block Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis. You see all that, and it's survival. So, but he definitely helped himself, and it's too bad he's not going to be around. But at the same time, I'm happy for him.
Just to add a bit more context to how fast he ran. We saw Gunnar Helm from Texas, the tight end, twice this past season. And no, he's not a burner tight end necessarily, but they ran the same 40 time. Gunnar Helm and Jared Wilson.
Yeah, he could probably catch some passes too. And hopefully we're going to get his brother. He's got a brother that we're recruiting. I don't know if it's the same name or not.
Yeah.
What's the name now?
I've already forgotten. I was going to go text Chad.
I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of schools jumping on them that weren't jumping after seeing that kind of deal. But it's just
is it PJ Dean? That's what I'm saying.
Could be. Yeah. From what school?
This is from West Forsyth in Clemens, North Carolina.
That's it. West Forsyth, right up there in Winston-Salem. Barbecue belt, man. Go over there and get
the barbecue belt.
Get some Lexington barbecue right near West Forsyth. But I can tell you this, sitting around, and everybody can't sit and watch every kid run and everybody do all that stuff. But when you're by yourself like me, I mean, it's just like pennies from heaven to watch that draft coming up in a couple of weeks and then watch the combine like I did this past weekend. And source of pride to see Georgia in that position. And I sent Kirby a text. I remember 8 years ago we got drafted in the 4th round. That was it.
Isaiah McKenzie.
And so what a testimony the way he's gotten players in here and developed. And I saw that quote that Roddy had that Daniel Jeremiah said that when you sign the letter of intent with Georgia along with that invitation to the combine the same day. So it's pretty much true. It's
14 guys.
We don't want to take that for granted. I mean, there's a lot of negatives and stuff about we didn't do as good as we needed to and all that, but realistically, pretty strong to be the way these guys talk about Georgia and the way they practice and the way I'm talking about listen to some of these scouts and all. They're a scout's dream because it makes their job easy because they're easy to evaluate. Instead of going in there and a guy coming in and say, well, how does he do on his pass sets when they're going to a place that does the RPOs because they never see it? All they do here is get in the room, and I know I let them go over there like on a Wednesday or Thursday when the pro scouts are there, and they got this room for them on the side, and they're stacked up like club sandwiches in there. There's so many of them in there, and they're just drooling watching the tape. Not so much that Georgia's that great, but just the fact they got that massive amount of practice tape of them doing pro drills and practice and like the pros do. So it makes their job, because their job's to, project a guy, and it's easy to do that when you see that. And that's why you see so many Georgia guys going maybe higher than you think, because they know what they're capable of.
Speaking of a guy who I hope goes higher than he thinks, because I didn't know that he had a great day or a great event up there, was Dylan Fairchild. Nothing really jumps off the page about his performance up there.
Yeah, I noticed Dylan didn't run the 40, right?
I don't think so. He did he had a broad jump that was like the sixth best among the 29 offensive linemen. I mean, he's explosive. He's a great wrestler. I'm not saying that he shouldn't have gone, but I just didn't hear much about it. There's no buzz generated by Dylan.
Well, here's the thing about it. A week from tomorrow, they're going to be doing all that stuff. So if he wasn't ready to do it and didn't feel good about it, a lot of times when you're out there and you're getting compared to all these guys that are number one draft choices like Banks and all those guys, you get a tendency to maybe, in all fairness, it shouldn't be, but get lost in the shuffle. But now you come here where there's only, 5 or 6 linemen, and they're looking at you, and, they're really focusing on you. I think maybe he might benefit from that. That might be what they're looking at. But, I read some reports on him saying about his core strength and all that needs to be better. I'm not really sure about that. I always felt like he was pretty strong, but the guy worked his way into the lineup and essentially beat out Micah Morris, regardless any way you look at it. He got to play more than Micah. I don't know what how much he was hurt or not. I'm talking about Micah, but he had a good 2 years for us. So who's next?
Best for last amongst the offensive linemen before we get to the speed guys. Let's talk Tate Ratledge. He had a 4.97 40-yard dash, which that was the fourth fastest of all the offensive linemen at the combine. He's tied with Broderick Jones, who I think is one of the greatest offensive athletes I've ever seen, for the second fastest 40 time by a Georgia offensive lineman in combine history. And that was with the drag of his hair.
Yeah, but, the one thing he had, which was even more remarkable, was his 10-yard split, which was the fastest one up there. I think he's like a 1.71, which that's what you're looking at.
Yeah,
linemen aren't going to probably run a 40 the rest of their life. But I saw this list that had to consider the 10 combine freaks, taking everything in the combination of everything they did, and Tate and Jared Wilson were both among those 10. That's of everybody there. So that's pretty impressive. Tate has good leverage. He's got tremendous football IQ. He can play center. He just got knocked out with that 2 terrible injuries. I mean, the first year against Clemson, and then this year having the tightrope surgery. And I think he's an NFL starter. He's just too good.
I remember when he was a freshman and they put him on the line. That's saying a lot. To the fastest guys, Coach, let's go to wide receiver Arian Smith. This is a guy who ran a 10.10 in the 100 meters in college, one of the fastest players we've ever had in the University of Georgia. People were talking about maybe him breaking the 40 time at the combine. He didn't, but he still ran pretty good. This 4.36.
4.36 is smoking. And the best thing about him was the drill where they run across the field and catch it every other 5 yards and then tuck it away and run, where he had to catch 4 or 5 in a row, which I was being facetious here. He hasn't done a lot of that, and he did a good job with it, and he looked explosive. And then at the end, he led the group, went down there and did a front cartwheel and then a front somersault, which shows you his ability. He's going to make a team just on special teams because he's the best gunner that I've ever seen in college. So he'll do okay, and I think the pro workouts will help him. Beside the ones that they come here and work them out, they can take them to their own venue and do that. And that's what I've encouraged some of my colleagues to say, hey, just bring this kid in and talk to him and get to know him. And, people have improved over the years. I mean, Bob Hayes couldn't catch a cold when he went to the Dallas Cowboys, but nobody was the fastest guy in the world either. And he ended up being good. So there's always some negatives and certainly, but I sure am glad that Arian caught that pass against Ohio State that put us in position to come from behind, and caught that pass against Tennessee when we were behind 10-0.
That's it. The one that third down against Texas on that in route.
And you talk about Texas, and everybody talks about their team and all. They got 2 receivers that ran 4.3. I mean, that one guy that kept smoking us,
Matthew Golden, yeah,
fantastic. He was working over Harris and everything, and I was thinking, God, we got to get up on this guy better. Ran a 4.3, and then the other guy too, Bond. He was bragging about he was going to break Worthy's record, but you had 2 wide receivers running 4.3 and the tight end there, and then you got the number 1 tackle supposedly who we wore out, did a good job of rushing on him, and then you got Ewers. So you had 5 players on the offense right there going to get drafted.
I think it was one of Bruce Feldman's articles that I read, one of the sources that he has, said that Golden looked like one of the Ohio State receivers, which I'm just like, man, think about the reputation you have at a position that you just look at a good receiver and say, oh, they look like they should be at Ohio State.
Yeah, and you could tell. I was talking to Dayne today a little bit off air about the quarterback from Ohio State didn't look that great, and maybe part of it was he wasn't throwing the Smith and some of those receivers too like he normally does. But
fair, very fair.
It was, and then we had Lovett ran a smooth.
Yeah, Dom Lovett, coach, ran a 4.4. He's moving
smooth 4.4, and he looked really good catching the ball effortlessly, and he's going to be a good slot receiver, and he'll make a team. Inside info that I have, he's probably rated a little higher than some people have him, and quality kid too, really quality.
I think a lot of people, Coach, we fall into that trap of looking at the measurables, the 40 times, the splits, the hands, arms, broad jump, all that stuff. And they look at Dom Lovett and they go, 5'10", didn't run a 4.3, which is stupid. But I'm like, he actually said, I want to show them I play bigger than I am. And he has played bigger than he is. He doesn't always look like a, tiny little slot receiver out there. He plays pretty big, and that matches what you're saying if the folks have him ranked higher.
He's a little bigger probably than McConkey, a little thicker, maybe not quite as quick, but if anybody was a can't miss, I knew it was McConkey. I put my reputation on the line on him with a lot of guys. And, Daniel Jeremiah was sold on him after watching a few things. But, I think McConkey certainly proved that, how much we needed him just because how much we missed him this year. I mean, he and Bowers both.
Staying with the smaller guys, Trevor Etienne, 5'9", 198 pounds. Ran a 4.42 and actually had 15 reps on the bench. He's the only guy that actually only Georgia player to perform on the bench press. Strong, fast. His 10-yard split, Coach, talk about acceleration on the backfield, was tied for the second fastest. So.
Yeah, he's got that instant quickness. I mean, he's going 100 miles an hour right off the bat, and you can measure his GPS pretty quickly like that. But got a lot of upside. Very good football IQ, can catch a ball out of the backfield. I was just amazed at the number of backs that could run fast. And some of them I'd never heard of. That kid transferred from North Carolina A&T to Virginia Tech, and he was a workout warrior up there, Tootin or something like that. He was unbelievable. And then, of course, Gente didn't run, but certainly Etienne's going to get his chance in the pros, and he can be an every down back. I mean, you look at what I mean, James Cook's asking for $15 million now. I mean, he should. That's what he wants them to pay him. Buffalo to stay there, and definitely, I would think they would keep him. But he's similar back to Cook for sure.
Some of these things surprised me, Roddy, because 2 years ago, Ollie Gordon from Oklahoma State was like a Heisman contender. Dude ran a 4.61.
Yeah, he was so beat up from getting the heck beat out of him at Oklahoma State with that line they had this year that they took his speed down. I think Ollie Gordon's going to be an NFL back, though. Parcells used to say to me, he said, I'm not worried about the 40. I'm worried about a guy that can make 4 or 5 yards for me. He said, you're not going to outrun anybody in the pros. I mean, how many really this year you saw Saquon make a few long runs that teams are running zero coverage and all that, but you just don't see a lot of bust where – I'm not just talking about Gordon. You just don't see a lot of huge, humongous runs. And I think Ollie Gordon is a good, strong runner that'll make a team, but his 40 didn't help him, but all those yards he's made is going to help him. So definitely look bad compared to some of those guys as far as – but I still think he'll get drafted pretty good.
I'm with you there. Also, with Cook, that's a guy whose older brother was, a known quantity. He gets to the league. He's a known quantity. He's worth $15 million. Trevor Etienne's got that family connection. So I think the team's going to be like, well, hey, if it works with one, it'll work with the second one. So he's going to get up there. But I think you're right, Coach, when you talk about there's just how many guys have that breakaway speed. We see it with wide receivers. We don't see it so much with safeties, but the wide receivers have those running starts. It's just almost impossible to blow anybody away with speed out of the backfield. And one of the reasons you can't do that is because there's safeties out there like Malachi Starks. And Malachi had a pretty good combine.
Malachi didn't run.
He's an instant winner.
But, you look at the requirements for safety, they're not worried about a guy that if he ran a 4.7 or a 4.8 or something, but if you can run 4.6, you can play in the NFL if you can tackle. And he ran 4.5, and he's got good change of direction, got tremendous athleticism, ball skills, can play in the slot as a nickel guy. He's going to go high.
Another guy who you told us before it happened, God, you were telling us 3 years ago. Remember when Smile Munden came in and was one of these starters? You talked about this is one of the most athletic kids we've had at Georgia, and I'm like, Coach, that's hyperbole.
Yeah, but then Kirby Smart said it behind a microphone after I think we chatted about it, and I was just like, wow, Kirby doesn't do that publicly very often.
He does not. But look, this Smile Munden goes up there, and just think of the explosiveness. He jumps. His broad jump was the best by 3 inches of all the linebackers at the Combine. It ties for the second best for a Georgia linebacker at the Combine since 1999, trailing only Boss Bailey. So, hey, congrats for Smile Munden tearing it up. He had a 4.58 40. You said he would test out of the ability, Coach, and he did.
Yeah, I just can't give enough kudos for the guy. He played last year, 2 years ago, with a broken foot. I mean, and just gutted it out and did all he could to help us try to win, and just didn't have much left at the end. And then this year, had some repercussions from it. But the guy can play sideline to sideline. He can hit you like a tom-tom. I mean, he, just puts you back. And he's got good physical traits for sure, but he's got good mental ability. I mean, these guys have the ability to go sit in a room with a defensive coordinator and talk about pro coverages because they've been coached up by Glenn Schumann and the Kirby Smart defense. And this is a homer show, and I know we're bragging about our place, but there's a lot of people can't do that. I mean, these kids are playing 1 or 2 coverages, and they're not doing, they're just playing, try to get them on the ground. I mean, he's going to get up there and say, okay, if they come out in this, we're going to check to this. If the guy goes in motion, we're going back to this. If a condenser splits, we're going to match these 2 guys, which that's what you got to learn here. And I've said it numerous times. Our defense is a lot more intricate takes more to learn than our offense just because of all the checks involved. So the offense knows what they're going to do, and you're going to adjust a little bit to the coverages and all. But Smile really helps himself getting on the board. I promise you that. And because the defensive coach, you're only as good as what your linebackers can get checked off to the rest of the players. You know what I mean? You can't get a safety out there checking stuff and a corner, but that's going to help him as much as his physical attributes, as his ability to. And then you say, well, how did you feel when you were playing in the same defense with Quay Walker, or how did you feel playing with the kid in Miami that's playing the linebacker? What's his name from South Carolina? And
Channing Tindall, Nakobe Dean, and he's played with all these guys.
He played with all those guys.
Yeah.
And he could say, look, I whipped their ass and everything I did. And from the standpoint, I was a better athlete, which you could say.
Yeah.
He's probably a better athlete than any of them, except maybe Roquan.
Well, another guy who didn't do anything on the field, but I mean, when you meet and talk with him, you become an instant fan. I mean, just because of his personality, his drive, it comes across. And that's Jalen Walker, projected first-round pick. He didn't participate in any of the on-field drills up there. He'll do it at Pro Day here and next week, 8 days from now. But, Coach, I got to think that anybody that interviewed Jalen Walker, and of course they all did. He's a first-round guy. They had the same feeling they had with Smile Munden, like this guy knows football. This guy knows he's going to be a credit to our organization. Let's get him.
Yeah, I think the thing that's going to be the biggest situation with him is he's a tweener. He's a hybrid. Is he an inside backer that can cover, or is he an outside rush guy that can get to the quarterback? So all those things are great as a college guy because you can go back and forth, but hard to do that in the pros. So whatever team takes him, going to typecast him as one of the others. So he's a little short maybe for an outside rusher, but pretty big for an inside backer. So, but one thing he's going to do is he's going to make the play. Whatever is required to do it, he'll make it. And I honestly, without question, feel like all his football's ahead of him.
I agree. All right, the last four guys are on the defensive line. You got Nazir Stackhouse. What can you tell us about Nazir? I mean, I think he's played so much football. The tape's out there.
Nazir's got more reps than somebody in the Marines.
That's what I'm saying. He's just played so much.
He's played over and over here and then practiced and been a warrior as far as never being hurt much. You never see him on the injury list. And he's just a squad guy that's going to come in there and take up space. And, I thought he might run a little faster because of his track background, but he's a guy that'll make a team. And then certainly I think Brinson really helped himself with interviews, football knowledge. A couple coaches talked to me. They really liked his, football acumen. But he also ran pretty good and tested pretty well on his vertical and his broad. This guy is a massive guy with a lot of power, and he's going to make it just like Devontae Wyatt made it, just like all these other guys. He's going to make it up there. And the guy that probably – we talk about Jared Wilson, but the guy that just tested unreal was Ingram Dawkins, and just looked like a who's who of what you want in a defensive lineman. I mean, what all do they have there?
So Ingram Dawkins, his 40 time was tied for the fastest among the defensive tackles of this year's combine. His 10-yard split was tied for the best at the position. At the combine since 2003, his broad jump ranks as the best at his position. This guy jumped 10 feet 4 inches, and his vertical is the second best at his position.
I mean, and he just also ran here. He should, he played good, but I mean, just up and down. But here's another guy to me that you get him consistently in there that he just got too much physical ability. I mean, I've said this before, and I mean it. Big guys that can move are like dinosaurs. It's just hard to find them. The same thing in recruiting, and that's why we're so jacked up about this kid from Savannah that we'll be talking about next week playing here. You just get guys like that. That's why I was so maxed out about Carter coming. I was just hoping nothing hurt him between there and getting here, because you just watch the tape and you watch these guys. And I think Ingram Dawkins is going to probably get drafted a lot higher than he would have, just because of this combine.
Yeah, the only negative thing I saw about him, they said he's a little underweight. And I'm like,
what?
Underweight. He's 6'5", 276. He could be 300 pounds, but I don't know that he needs it. I mean,
well, they want those big old Chilardos, big 300 something. But then Michael, I mean, to me, as much of a can't miss player as we've had around here, I just think he'll make it big.
Yeah, the last one was Michael Williams. Didn't participate in the on-the-field drills. He'll do it. Dayne Walker, he'll do all his next week. Top of the line guy, one of the best out there. Interviews extremely well. Also, Dayne, did you notice he said he was only about 60% healthy all year?
Yeah, and media asked him that directly in the season. He didn't give that same answer. I mean, they want to keep some things from different people on the team, and I understand that as well. But yeah, it was interesting to see. I think that explains a lot, because he definitely did play inconsistent, and he played not as high of an intensity as I think that we've seen from him in the past. But if you're designing an edge to play in the NFL, you're probably building something like the prototype of what he is. You just need him to be healthy.
Yeah. Well, he's healthy now, so he's going to take off and be the man. All right, we need to go a quick break here, and we got a lot of spring practice stuff to talk about, and we have a lot of questions to get to, some from Facebook, some from UGASports.com. First off, I want to mention our friends at Academia Brewing Company. On the screen there is their giant pretzel. If you ever want to have a carb indulgence day, go by there, have their pretzel. It's phenomenal. They have the ale, cheese, and honey mustard. The ale cheese, I like a beer cheese. It's really good. I've had it. It's phenomenal. You will not have anything better to dip your homemade giant pretzel into when you get the chance. It's really good. And I tell people all the time, go out there early. Don't wait till like 8, 9 o'clock. If you get out there between 4 and 5, you get 50% off all the appetizers. So if you want the giant pretzel, you get it for half off between 4 and 5. And if you're there, you say, hey, I work till 5. I can't get there until 5:15, 5:20, 5:30, 25% off. So they always have deals going on out there. There's always specials going on, especially with all their fantastic beer. They win awards year after year for their beer. So check out Academia Brewing Company. You'll be glad you did so. And speaking of food, your pie. Today's the 4th. Tomorrow's my son's birthday, by the way. He'll be 21.
Oh, happy early birthday.
The 10 days from now will be 3/14. On the 14th, that is Pie Day, 3.14. Pie Day, you can get a $5 pizza. So I remember back in the old days, they used to do it for $3.14, and the place would burn down because you'd see a line wrapped all the way around the building, 2 or 3 deep. But inflation has hit us all. So your pie, the pie deals are $5, which is a fantastic deal for one of the big old pizzas. You can actually go ahead and order it now. You can get ahead of the schedule and go ahead and order your giant pizza for $5 on Pie Day, 314. So hit them up. You'll be glad you did so.
There's one more player that I wanted to give a shout out for NFL Combine, Roddy, and that's Clay Webb, the former Georgia center at Jacksonville State. 29 reps in the bench press, and I think he's probably
how many?
his way. 29. Clay Webb, he was such a hotshot recruit at Georgia, didn't work out here, goes to Jacksonville State, builds a career there, I'm just really happy for him to see he's going to have a shot here in the NFL.
I love the kid. I always have. I know people like to make fun of him for certain things that happened in high school. I don't care. Was always a great recruit, even when he was. I mean, this is a 5-star kid. When we interviewed him, he was always very conscientious about what he was saying. He didn't just give us cliches. One of the smartest kids you'll ever talk to, and I hope he has a long NFL career. And I wish that for all the former Georgia guys. If you committed to Georgia and you played at Georgia, well, maybe with one exception at Alabama.
This is a rare one, though. So when I was looking around just at the combine results, there aren't a lot of like Georgia transfers. And in previous years, I think we've had that. In upcoming years, we will. But there really wasn't a whole lot in this group that was at Georgia for a little bit and transferred somewhere else.
Yeah, like Jermaine Johnson. Some of our players were talking about how hard it was to protect against him. And, of course, he got drafted in the first round.
Yeah, he's very good.
I mean, even previous years, guys like Matt Landers that gets a shot in the NFL with training camp and stuff like that. There just weren't many of those this season. Now, you can look around and see a lot of potential recruits that Georgia was deep in on, for days. But when you're a team like Georgia, that's going to happen at a combine.
And I'm with you. Dayne, go ahead and hit up some of the questions. I got some from Facebook, but we want to give priority to our folks at UGASports.com. So let's get those questions. I was going to say there's some spring questions I want to ask you, Coach, but our readers have already asked those questions, so we will let them do it.
Ask them.
From Tom Dog, which of Georgia's offensive line prospects do you think will have the best NFL career?
I mean, it's hard for me to say that for sure. To me, I think all four have a chance to make clubs, but as far as projections, you got to think Tate and Wilson have the best shot at because of their, where they're going to get drafted. But I'm not going to go out on a limb on that part.
I just hope, Coach, that Tate ends up getting to the second contract because with the 2 injuries that he's had, with the amount of football that he's played at a high caliber SEC level, I just have some concern with the miles on that body. He's durable. He's taking care of himself, and he's a great athlete, as we just saw. I just really hope he makes it to that second contract.
Yeah, but conversely, all the reps he missed, he still has in his body. So, and, the physical pounding he hasn't taken, but you definitely have a tendency to start talking about a guy being injury prone. Not necessarily him, but I'm just saying when things like that happen, it's like Branson Robinson. Hopefully the worst is over for him, but who knows?
I've never understood injury prone because these things are such freak accidents sometimes.
Right. What was the name of that? He had Liz Frank, right?
Yeah, Liz Frank against Clemson.
Liz Frank, and then he had he did the tightrope surgery. So,
the tightrope actually you come out stronger than you were before. So I'm proud of that. I'll go Jared Wilson, and that's nothing against Tate, but I just look at Georgia's history of centers in the NFL. Those guys are still playing.
Yeah, I mean you may get up there and he'll definitely make it.
Yep.
From Big Old Dog, Coach, curious what changes that you expect Georgia to make on offense this season. Is it things on the offensive line, running game, tweaks based on personnel from the portal?
Philosophically, I think you're going to continue to play around your defense. That's and your special teams. Hopefully, we'll get more turnovers where we'll get easier field position, which Kirby's made that point that hurt us this year. We had a long way to go a lot. But I think certainly going to try to work hard on holding on to the ball by that, protecting fumbles, but also catching the ball with a lot more consistency and also blocking-wise. Blocking the point of attack is one thing, but there seemed to be at least one breakdown more times than not that caused everybody doing pretty well and one guy missing. So I think we're going to work hard on being more consistent, maybe cut back on some things and make sure you do a lot of one thing really good instead of maybe not quite as much. I don't know what they'll run as far as schemes. And then, the tight ends have got to come through like I think they can. We certainly got really good experience there with Delp and Lucky, and then you got Riddell, and is really very talented. Heinrich's coming off of surgery, but I think get a little more tight end base where we can, secure the point of attack, and then just really feed the heck out of the ball to Frazier. I think he's just a big time back that not many people have. I just think he'll be, that's my prediction for next year. I just think Frazier will be among the best players in the country. And then certainly the other last phase, which not definitely is the first, is establish a quarterback that the players believe in and that can make the plays that are necessary to win in this league, which I feel like either one of those guys can do that. So that would be what I would talk about.
It's along that line. Question from Huz Huz Ben. Huz Ben says, "Is the quarterback position?"
I wonder how many times he's been married.
That's what I'm thinking too. Is the quarterback position automatically Gunners, or will performance/production evaluation decide? So
yeah, I think that's a good question for not only that position but anything. Here at Georgia, you start out on the totem pole based on your experience, but you don't have anything written in concrete. You've got to earn the job daily and weekly and monthly. So I think he's got a head start on Puglitsky, but I think Ryan's got a very talented arm and has learned a lot more about the system. And it'll be good for Gunner to have this guy breathing down his neck. So it'll be a competition that all of us will enjoy.
This from Stick D's over on YouTube. Coach, who do you think will be the top 3 Georgia players drafted, in what order in the upcoming draft?
Oh, me.
Good luck.
I would probably make any of those 3 mad if I said otherwise. But I really feel like Michael will be the first guy drafted just because of what I said about Walker as far as being a hybrid, and then Walker next, then Starks, and then more than likely I would think Wilson would be the next guy.
I haven't talked to you about this, Coach, but top of the draft, number 1, number 2 picks, are you thinking this is Cam Ward? Are you thinking Abdul Carter? But it doesn't seem like there's a sure bet.
Well, the Titans have got so many new people there in the front office and so many, a new coach, Callahan, second year. They didn't get any production out of their quarterback much in that Will Levis last year. I mean, they're either going to take Cam Ward or they're going to get some heck of a draft picks for that. I don't think they'll take Carter, but a struggling franchise probably not going to take a defensive lineman to make you make that jump. So, but I could be wrong there. I mean, I like Cam Ward though. I think he's very productive. He's a lot like some of these guys that last year that went. So many of them were drafted is unreal.
You're speaking about
a lot of it will be today by 4:00. See what they do. The Vikings do with Sam Dalton if they don't franchise him. He's younger than Joe Burrow. He's been in several teams, but he's a younger quarterback. He's only 27 years old. He threw 35 touchdown passes this year. And Minnesota's got J.J. McCarthy. What are they going to do? But if I'm Sam Darnold, I'd probably take a little less money knowing I got those guys to catch the ball for me, knowing the team believes in me. I won 14 games. And, but as compared to going off in someplace like the New York Jets again or if they would have him or the Giants or whoever it might be. So, but if Sam Darnold gets on the market, then that's going to make it interesting to see how the quarterback thing's going to roll because Shedeur, to me, is definitely got football a lot going for him. Shedeur Sanders, but throws a lot of balls up for grabs too. I mean, doesn't take care of the ball as much as I'd like.
Reports that I've seen indicate that the Vikings will not franchise tag Darnold. He would go to the market, and then we would see from there. The Bengals just did the franchise tag on T. Higgins for the second year in a row.
Well, what about the Bengals? Got T. Higgins and Chase.
Mm-hmm.
Come on. And what do you do there? And then you got that defensive end, Henderson, or whatever his name is. And
Hendrickson, yeah.
You got to, what do you do? I mean, money-wise, and then you got Joe Burrow. They better do something about their defense. I know that. But you can't keep outscoring people. They lost a lot of games just inexplicably poor defensively. They hired Al Golden from Notre Dame to be their coordinator. So, if you franchise him for the second year, then they're basically saying they want to win this year and then see what happens. But I guess Chase is going to ask for everything from he's going to go on that deal with Elon Musk and Trump to Fort Knox and go in there and get some of that gold.
Well, speaking of a guy who could make a lot of money in the future, this question is from Michael Gates. He says, with the depth at inside linebacker, do you think they will try to experiment with Justin Williams in a hybrid inside-outside linebacker role like they did with Jalen Walker? The depth at outside linebacker is very concerning.
I think that's inevitable. That's probably one of the reasons why the kid went to Missouri.
Cole.
What?
Cole?
No, Wilson.
Wilson.
Yeah.
Dayne Wilson, yeah.
Because we have that history of playing guys like that. We had and I'm not saying that's the reason per se, but he wanted to play more, and we get those linebackers doing it. I could see Williams doing that. Definitely, good question.
Yeah, Justin Williams, I mean, he's really good. I was thinking with Damon Wilson, he was worried, or what I was told was he was worried Chris Cole was going to be in that role.
Well, one of them, maybe you're right. Hey, I don't know which one.
I'm with you though. I think Justin Williams fits that hybrid spot really well.
From what I understand, got a few buddies out there in Missouri that they say that he's lighting it up out there.
Yeah, he's really good. Hate to lose him. That was the one in the transfer portal that just killed me. It's like that's the guy
you lose Julio. I mean, Humphrey. I don't know, but Wilson. That was a tough loss.
Yeah, so that brings up this question from Drew Cheshire. He says, who do you think emerges at the corner spot opposite of Dalen Everett? Will it be Ellis Robinson?
Yeah, I think Harris is better than you give him credit for, and he's got 2 more years left. I think certainly we got some other young guys that are going to look pretty good too. So, but Ellis just got to get healthy. Every time he got close, he had a little nitpicking injury, but he's certainly got the length and the quickness and the speed. I could see us playing, 3 or 4 corners. So we'll be better in the secondary this year with the addition of some of the safeties we got, and particularly a kid from Miami, the one from Birmingham, and the one from USC. All three will help. And then we got some good guys, coming back too. So secondary will be better, I think.
KJ Bolden, big year coming up.
As a fluid type deal, everybody playing together.
We got a few more questions, Coach. One of them I think you're going to like is about the which 2 or 3 early enrollees do you think will make a big splash? But before we get to that, we need to mention our friends at Athens Ford, because you can make a big splash on a new Ford Escape or a Sport or a Mustang. And I want to mention the fact that if you are a first responder, so Athens Ford recognizes the first responders for their service, and you will receive up to $500 cash back on your next purchase. Also, they do the same thing for folks in the military as well. So if you are a police officer, firefighter, EMT, you deserve a bit of recognition and some special treatment for your hard work. So the folks at Athens Ford will give you a $500 up to $500 cash back on your next purchase. Same with vets and folks in the military. So they're very, I won't say, they're very good to their community, and they want to help the people who help them. And of course, the deals they have out there on the new and used vehicles are good for anybody, but especially good for first responders and military vets. Oh, and also students. So if you're a new, you're in class or you're a recent graduate, hit them up and see if they have that discount for you as well, because they know that if you just paid for a college education, it's not like you got a ton of money laying around. So check out Athens Ford when you get the chance. Also, reach out to our friends. If you are a new college grad, reach out to myperfectfranchise.net. I know you don't have any money right now, but you can always get a loan to add to your student loan if you have one of those. But I wish, going back, that I had not jumped right into retail and journalism right off the bat. I wish I'd owned my own company. And the way to do that is reach out to myperfectfranchise.net. There's almost 3,000 different franchises out there. And you reach out to Andy Ludecky and say, hey, this is what I got. This is what I can do. What can you recommend for me? So if you want to make a change, or you're just starting, your working life, reach out to myperfectfranchise.net and they will take good care of you. It's all free. So check them out. All right, Coach, back to the question. Which 2 or 3 early enrollees do you think will stand out the most? Tough
I'm
question.
going
You've been good at this in the years. You've nailed them.
All right, can I go ahead and tell them? I'm going with Elijah Griffin, and I'm going with Taylor Taylor, and / CJ Wiley, and then the big lineman Gaston.
Juan Gaston.
That's the way I'm going for it.
Hey, that's trenches and speed guys on the edge. I love it. Yeah. I mean, you definitely need.
But there's a lot more too. I mean, the linebacker, that one linebacker. I mean, the running back. I mean, there's this is a very talented class. Very talented.
I'm just excited about the wide receiver room, because if Coach is saying the 2 potential receivers there, and I'm thinking, well, I saw Landon Rolden a lot in high school, and I know there's a transition to make, but that dude is a speedster.
Yeah, I mean, you can keep all those receivers, but and some of the receivers we got are still going to be good too. I like so.
I'm with you there. When you see CJ Wiley coming around at 6'4" running track, he's flying. And then Talon Taylor, we had him at the 5-star challenge in Jacksonville. That kid is special. So I'm like, okay.
I just wanted to point out something here that's been kind of gnawing at my crawl, but and certainly it has nothing to do with the Georgia faithful or anything else. But, when I was at Oklahoma, I used to sit up at night and almost break out in a sweat, worried about the fact that we might lose a game. I'm talking about in January, February, all the way through, night before playing Nebraska, night before playing Texas, even though I expected to win and I was very confident. But you couldn't enjoy winning because you're so worried about losing. And we lost 3 games in 3 years. And really lost 5 and 4. I mean, we lost 2 the next. But and Marshall, the same thing. So it's just, and you see all these teams now and all these sports lose. How do you think Andy Reid feels right now? Lower than well shit. I mean, the guy won 2 straight Super Bowls, but they got destroyed. But that just goes with, I mean, the guy gets paid a lot and everything, but it's just the expectancy level is unbelievable. I mean, and it goes with the territory. I know what it means, but I'm just telling you, I was at Oklahoma and went through it. I know what Kirby does on a day-to-day basis, everything he does towards making this team better and working his players and working his staff. And I promise you, nobody that's listening to this program has 1 inch of the concern that he does of making sure that he does everything humanly possible not to lose a game and make this program as good as it can be. So it's just hard to be critical. Which, hey, what are we going to do better on offense? What are we going to do this? I mean, that's part of life. I mean, you got to do it, but still, the expectancy level here is woo.
Oh, I was thinking about how last year we're thinking, oh, it'd be kind of fun if Georgia hosted a home playoff game. Alabama's coming to Georgia this year. Texas is coming to Georgia this year. I mean, it is a pretty loaded home schedule and a lot of really fun days for people in this state. So, yeah, Coach, if people get so caught up in results and things that are in such small margins.
They're right. I agree. I mean, I've tried to be a lot more objective about it. I understand that, but I do see you see all these kids, the way they act when they get out there in public and get interviewed and all and talk about Georgia and all. It's pretty dang impressive. But I tell you something that's scary to me is that Marshall, not because I was a Marshall coach or anything, playing Marshall the first game, they're going to have between 50 and 65 new players, new coach, new coordinator, new defense, new offense. You don't have any tape on them. I mean, they're going to come in here and, hey, they can probably have some guys like Birmingham. UAB came in and had that quarterback and, they moved the ball on us. They do. So, I mean, it's a scary first game just because of the lack of knowing who they got on the team.
How do you prepare for them? I don't know who they got. Hey, that happened to a lot of teams playing Colorado. They didn't know what they were bringing in. So I get it.
I mean, we'll be okay, but I'm saying it's not a lay down game. And Marshall won the Sun Belt Conference last year, but a lot of their kids transferred. But still, we got to. And then Tech, come on! I mean, they got some guys back, and they got to feel like they should have gotten that one last year. So we got a remarkable schedule this year. I mean, just it's very hard to categorize one as a Ben-Hur, but this is a Ben-Hur. That movie just lasts forever. Ben-Hur. This is scheduled Ben-Hur, boy.
Sunday mornings, TBS 10:35. Turn on the movie of the week, either Spartacus or Ben-Hur or Cleopatra or Guns of Navarone. Hey, best memories.
That guy Ben-Hur now. He could get on that chariot now.
Well, I said those games. I didn't even mention Ole Miss, and I think Austin Simmons could be one of the breakout players in college football based on what we saw last year.
It's another team you don't know who they're going to have. I mean, they do a great job of transfer portal and.
You're so negative, Coach.
I'm not. I'm being.
No, I'm with you. I will say this.
I feel like.
Go ahead.
I feel like this though. Every time, just like the Texas game last year, after we lost to Alabama, nobody gave us much of a chance. But when Kirby Paul Smart's got it ass in the ringer a little bit, you better watch out because he's going to gnaw at it, man. He's going to go at it hard, and these players will too. They've worked hard in the off season and got some dramatic strength gains and dramatic quickness gains. It'll be interesting to see.
I go back to what you told us off the record, and I hate to put you out there on this one. I know you like to keep stuff secret, but you said after Georgia had won back-to-back national championships that the tenor inside the Butts-Mehre building, Kirby Smart was still going as hard or harder than he had he not won those two championships, holding everybody accountable, wanting answers, demanding, pushing, how do we keep this going? The next year, they went undefeated in the regular season.
Yeah, we were really good. We were really good. Just had one bad quarter there against Alabama.
And then killed FSU. I mean, just that was it. This past year, you don't have as much talent. You had the toughest schedule in the world, and you didn't get where you want. Still won the SEC. So I'm telling you, if Kirby Smart, after two national championship seasons, is still as vehement, as demanding as he was 2 years ago. He's still the same guy after not getting there twice. He's going to be there. Now, we're talking about the 14 guys going off to the NFL and how, you lost Brock Bowers and, Ladd McConkey last year, how much that hurt you. But he's still the best when it comes to roster management. And all those new guys coming in, it was the number 2 class.
Those 3 DBs that started in the pros for playoff teams.
Yeah. I mean, you lost a lot of talent, but Kirby is going to replace it, and he has. So,
2 bad feelings that you don't want, okay? One's being at somebody's house and the commode won't flush. And 2 is doing something wrong in practice and knowing that Kirby's going to get after your ass when it's over with. I mean, those are 2 bad situations.
Yeah, Malachi Stark's talking about he wasn't even on their field. He was on a different field and he saw me.
Yeah, I'm not talking about during practice. That everybody hears about that, but if something happened that really he didn't want to really make everybody else know about that, and everybody's got their eyes walking around to see who's going to be the person he goes to when practice is over with, that's the person you don't want to be.
Yeah, agreed. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for this week's show. We are going to I think next week we'll probably have to do the show in the evening, because if things go to plan, Kirby Smart will be meeting with the media next Tuesday at noon. They practice starts Tuesday. They practice Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday for the next 5 weeks, culminating in the G-Day scrimmage on April 12th.
And Wednesday will be Pro Day, so hopefully they'll have that on the SEC network. So
we'll have a bunch of folks there reporting on it. But so more likely Tuesday night, our show will be next Tuesday evening.
Yeah, I want to give you a little love there, Roddy. I enjoyed the listening to and reading the different interviews that our people had with the kids that at the pro combine, just because you didn't have to send them there. I mean, it's good. I mean, I know it kind of cost effective sometimes, but seriously, that was some good stuff they did, and more accessible than they ever are in that situation, I think, and good chance to find out more about them.
Thanks, Coach. Folks, if you haven't read all the coverage, check it out at UGASports.com. A lot of great interviews. Again, Jared Wilson did a fantastic job. All those guys did great. And they're more relaxed. They're a little more open. And, of course, a lot of it's about NFL stuff, but that's why we mentioned the show. It's kind of our last time to talk about these guys. And now we're moving on to the next batch with spring practice, and we will do that next Tuesday evening. We'll see you then.